I'm going to live the standard life, going to be in debt, consumer debt my entire life, not get ahead, work Monday through Friday just to get to Saturday, have a couple beers, go to church on Sunday, and do it all again next week. Or we could have made the decision to where we say, you know what? We kind of got ourselves in a bind here financially. Let's get out of this, and then let's find a way to do the extraordinary, be part of the 1%, the things that most people don't do. And that's what we decided to do.
Hello. You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And I am Ken McElroy, filling in for Robert Kiyosaki while he is speaking throughout Australia and New Zealand. Very, very excited to talk to Jaren Sustar. And you guys might know him as the Finance Cowboy. He's got incredible YouTube experience. But more importantly, like a lot of us, he was a millionaire at 29 years old. And I think a lot of times we all start with, what are the answers? How do I grow? And do I really want to be that corporate person? Or, do I really want to drive a truck like Jaren started out doing? And his dad's a pastor. He's a man of faith, which I think is amazing. Jaren, welcome to the show.
Ken, thank you guys for having me. I am super excited to be here and chat all things money and real estate.
So, I think a lot of times, like you took action, right, as a young man, and by 29 years old, you had a net worth of over $1 million. And I think that was kind of my goal too in my 20s, right? And I think it's a lot of people's goals. So let's start with that journey, how you started. I think is very important because I think a lot of times people think we all start with money, which is of course not the truth. And then let's talk about, what you've learned, call it from, your early 20s to the 29 years old when you actually had, well, I guess you thought you had made it,
yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. I thought I was big stuff at 29.
Yeah.
You hit that $1 million net worth mark. You're like, yeah, I'm something. Then you start looking around.
I know. It's just, and then you realize it's just another step, right?
I'm just getting started, but I will say the compounding that happens after the first million seems to happen a lot quicker than the compounding it takes to get to that first million. So it's been a lot smoother ride, we'll say, since I was 29. But you hit the nail on the head, man. I grew up a pastor's son. My dad's still a pastor. I live a mile from his church down the road. And great family life, great home. But money just, wasn't a thing. Like we weren't poor. I didn't live dirt poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. My dad's a pastor. So we weren't talking about investing. We weren't talking about buying real estate. My outlet was always sports. The goal was to play Division I college baseball. And I got to do that, small school, Charleston Southern. Then I graduate. This is where it gets fun. I had all this fun, and then I graduate, and I realized, holy crap, my parents didn't have money to pay for college. I had a decent scholarship to play baseball, but it's baseball. You don't get full rides. They had 9 scholarships to fill a 40-man roster. And so I come out of college at age 22 with $65,000 in student loans. And then I got to buy a jacked up truck because I'm from South Carolina. So that's another 25 grand at the time, which trucks are way more expensive now. Then I had to buy my wife a wedding engagement ring. And then I had to run up credit cards. And so here I am, 22, 23 years old, and I'm in over $100,000 in debt. Like a ton of people are these days.
No, that's super relatable.
Yeah. You start behind the 8 ball. And, we hit a crossroads, my wife and I, when we first got married, we had all this debt where you look around and you say, okay, I'm going to be status quo, quote unquote, which, that's people's MO. That's okay. I'm going to live the standard life, going to be in debt, consumer debt my entire life, not get ahead, work Monday through Friday just to get to Saturday, have a couple beers, go to church on Sunday, and do it all again next week. Or we could have made the decision to where we say, you know what? We kind of got ourselves in a bind here financially. Let's get out of this, and then let's find a way to do the extraordinary, be part of the 1%, the things that most people don't do. And that's what we decided to do. And so you mentioned today we're in a good spot financially. We're in a very good spot, but we spent from 2013 to 2018, literally Ken doing nothing but paying off debt. It was a grind. We were in the trenches, and I'm talking about bad debt, not good debt. We'll talk about good debt here in a minute, but the credit cards, the student loans. And so for 5 years, we just built this, got out of debt to build this strong financial foundation, which then allowed us, once we got that cleaned up, got a good emergency fund in place, to then go and say, okay, we've got this hard part done. How do we go and create wealth now? And that's when we started implementing real estate. And, within a year and a half, I believe it was 2 years of buying real estate, we became millionaires at age 29. And here we are today at 32. And it's just gotten a lot better.
Thank you for that. I think so. Let's go back to that time frame where you kind of woke up. What happened? And then two, where did you go? So like a lot of people are confused about who their teachers are, what books to read. Maybe now, of course, we've got YouTube. Where did you go?
So there were really two main places, and it's interesting because this show had a large impact. The book that probably is tied to this show is one of large impacts on me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then really the complete opposite of that, the other influence on me, which sounds ridiculously crazy because I have a lot of debt in real estate now, was Dave Ramsey. And so like I had these two voices in my head. One got me out of really bad debt, and then one taught me how to get into really good debt and change my life through real estate. And it was quite the paradigm shift, of implementing both of them into my life. But I would say those are two of the biggest impacts from an outside standpoint that really affected my life. And then I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine who got into real estate right when we got out of college. He had gone into ROTC, so he had no debt. He came right out, was kind of doing commercial brokerage. And then they started bird dogging deals for other investors, which led to them building their own portfolio. And so by the time he was 27, he had become a multimillionaire. And he's calling me. He's like, bro, this asset is crazy. He's like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Whenever you get your finances in order, I got to get you in. And so as soon as I did, he brought, kind of took me under his wing, taught me how to find good real estate deals, how to analyze the deals, how to make offers, how to get management in place. And he was kind of that last piece that I had the theory, I had the knowledge, education from learning from these people all these years and reading books. And then he took me by the hand and actually walked me through the process. And from there, it was off to the races and we started scaling.
Right. So that is the traditional path, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like is you start with a book, like obviously Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like all of us. It just kind of breaks that paradigm of, you're like, wow, all of a sudden that book just says, why not me?
Yeah.
Right. And then how did you get your wife on board? Because, this happens a lot, right? Like it doesn't always work that way, right?
I think that's a big roadblock for a lot of couples. And, I would be lying if I said we had to go through this entire process and it was tough. My wife just trusts me. We had aligned goals. When we got married, we sat down and both decided what we wanted. We didn't know exactly. I mean, you're 22, 23 years old. You don't know exactly what you want. We just knew we wanted to be able to wake up at an early age and decide what our days look like. That was kind of the extent of what we wanted to do. And we talked through what that was going to look like. And you get to a point, even at a young age, that you understand that anything worth having in life is hard. It takes sacrifice. And it was, a small thing that we had both done, but she went and got a Division I track scholarship. I went and got a Division I baseball scholarship. And while we weren't pros, to get to college athletics at the Division I level took a form of sacrifice that a lot of people don't give in their teen years. I mean, when I'm 15, 16, 17, I'm up at 5 before school working out, going to school, coming home, batting cage, working out more. She did the same thing. And so we were used to delayed gratification. And so we were like, okay, if we just apply these principles that have allowed us to excel in the sports world, there's a pretty good chance we can do this in the real world, and they're going to pay us to do it. Like, sign us up, because NIL wasn't a thing back when we were in college.
Yeah. You touched on something, sports, I was a college athlete, a college wrestler, and the discipline and all the things that that you're trying to do to succeed, they do apply to business later. I don't want to go down that road too far, but congrats on that. I think the next thing that I'd like to focus on is the circle you were in, because that call it a mentor that had gotten to hit the goals at 27 years old, that you were saying, wow, if this is one of my buddies and he was able to do it, then I can do it. So that's a super important piece.
Yes. Because
a lot of times people are just read a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They're sitting back. They're not connected. They're not in a network. They kind of stop at that point. So what happened from that point, and how did you get in that circle?
I mean, when you put yourself around people who are already where you want to go, it just removes like so many mental roadblocks. Yeah, there's other roadblocks that are going to be removed because they have connections that you just don't have. But just being able to see how they think and how they see differently and how they analyze risk and analyze deals, it was an absolute game changer for me. Because you got to think, man, even to this day, I live in a very small rural town in South Carolina. So the majority of people around me do not think like a lot of us who are in this world think, and that's okay. You know, I hear a lot of folks talk about you need to get everybody out of your life who doesn't have the same visions as you. I don't live like that. I have a lot of simple people around me who I love and spend so much time with, and I don't push my agendas of what we're doing financially with our life on them. But I am smart enough to know that if that's all I have around me, then I'm probably going to get brought down. And I don't like to say down because it's almost like condescending, but from a financial standpoint, I'm probably going to start thinking like them. And so it was so important for me to find this buddy who was already doing and is already where I'm trying to go, because now I can start getting in the same mindset as him. And then also you said it earlier, it lets me think, why not me? Like, it makes it real. It goes from almost like a legend or a theory to reality when you can see somebody close to you doing it. And that's why social media is so important nowadays, is you can see all these normal people who are doing extraordinary things with their finances. And it takes down this mental barrier that allows you to be like, you know what? Like, I can do that. And when you get that mindset, you become unstoppable.
Well, that's the thing. As you know, I've been teaching with Rich Dad for years, and you go into seminars, and I know you do. You and I are going to see each other in May at Brandon Turner's. I do the event in August called Limitless in Dallas. And what happens is you start to show up at these places, and there are like-minded people, like that friend of yours, and you might be sitting right next to somebody that is already doing what maybe you want to do, right?
100%. And when you find that piece, whether it's local like I had, or you show up at an event like Limitless or any other event or local, whatever the event is, and you find that missing piece, that's when your life will start to turn.
That's why I was saying you don't always have to have that buddy, that 27-year-old buddy that made it and is teaching you and mentoring you. You know, I would say most people don't have that.
Mm-hmm. No.
But what they could do is they could show up at these different places where there's a lot of folks like yourself, like your buddy, like me, like Brandon, like Tarl. You know, these are folks that are trying to sharpen their saw, and they're trying to get better by listening to other people. And just being in that network, whatever it is, you know, I know Rich Dad for years and years and years, you know, they have all kinds of products and services and education programs and coaching and mentoring and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the whole point, right?
100%. There's so many people who have done what you want to do, and they're way beyond, but they enjoy giving back. You know, you look at somebody like myself, you look at Ken, and you look at the Brandon Turners, Tarl, who are on totally different levels than me. What happens is you see the effect that it has on your life. Because people ask me, why do you do this? Why do you have a brand? Why do you tell people? Well, it's because the effect that it had on me, just a normal dude from the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, never been given a dime, who got into an asset class like real estate, and now his life has completely changed. I want that for as many everyday average person who is willing to put in the work as possible. And there are folks, thousands of people like myself, like Ken, all over the country who are looking to do that with people like you who don't yet have that connection, and seek it out. It's up to you. They're there. We're here. We are ready to go to work for you. It's up to you to put in the work. And I would really encourage you to do so, because it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I think it boils down to choice. You know, people do have a choice. Yep. You know, if they're in a small town like yourself, or a small town like I grew up, or even, you know, Brandon hangs out in Maui, let's say, you know, that's not necessarily where the network is. Mm-hmm. But you just got to insert yourself to those spots. And you know, they say, of course, you know, your network is your net worth. You know, I know that's used a lot. But it can be true if you go there with the intention of meeting other people to help you achieve your goals.
No doubt. And you hear those cliche sayings like you just said. And when you haven't, you know, changed your life, quote unquote, financially, you kind of roll your eyes. I remember I used to roll my eyes at them, you know, all the cliche sayings. But then the longer you're in it and the more success you have, you realize there's a reason people keep saying these things is because they're true. If you'll actually follow what the cliche sayings are saying, you have a good chance for success.
It's so true. Yeah. So we got to take a break here. We are here at the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today we're talking with Jaren Sustar. Jaren, after the break, I'd love to talk to you about some of the common misconceptions that people have about real estate investing and how you address them, because I think, that's kind of the next step, right?
100%. Looking forward to it.
So we'll talk about that after the break.
Have you heard about the expanding influence of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and its potential to severely impact the US dollar by possibly creating a new world currency? Even JP Morgan said, and I'm paraphrasing, the impact of BRICS would most likely be felt here in the US, where moving away from the dollar would cause our financial assets like our IRAs and 401ks to lose value. We agree with JP Morgan and many others. Now's the time to position yourself for stability, security, and wealth protection. So take it from Robert and me, whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting, we believe that gold should be a part of everyone's portfolio. Seize the opportunity to ensure your financial future with gold, and do it with one of the best in the industry, Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold has done things right from the beginning, having earned 5 stars with TrustLink and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Allegiance Gold can help protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or you can have it delivered securely to your doorstep. Get up to $5,000 in free silver on a qualifying investment when you visit protectwithrobert.com today. Or you can call 844-3-ROBERT. That's 844-3-ROBERT. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Kiyosaki. Thank you for being with us today. As CEO and co-founder of the Rich Dad Company, I can assure you, Robert and I are both dedicated to our Rich Dad mission to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. And you are the humanity. We truly want you to succeed. When you succeed, we all succeed, and our mission grows stronger. With that in mind, I'm excited to extend a personal invitation to you to elevate your financial well-being by attending our exclusive free online wealth building event hosted by Robert. You'll learn what to focus on first to start increasing your cash flow immediately. You can reserve your seat right now by going to richdadonline.com. Just go to richdadonline.com. The event is 100% free and will help you achieve your financial goals.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And I'm Ken McElroy, filling in for Robert Kiyosaki while he is speaking throughout Australia and New Zealand. And today we're talking with Jaren Sustar, and you guys might know him as the Finance Cowboy. I watch his stuff. He's amazing. He was a millionaire by 29 years old. Jaren, welcome back.
Hey. I'm ready for the second half of this show. We had a great time on the first half.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we kind of teed up the first piece. How do you get yourself in the right spot? And, what do you read? What do you listen to? Who do you follow? And I think you answered that really, really clearly and nicely. But let's talk now about, what are some of the common misconceptions people have about real estate investing? Because I think, that's kind of the thing. I can think of my own, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I think there's two. And we could sit here and break down more than that. But when I look at the biggest two misconceptions that people have is, number one, I think they think you have to already be wealthy to buy real estate. I think in reality, real estate is an asset class that can take you from middle class to wealthy. And then the second misconception is that you need an excessive amount of capital to get started. And if you can't get over either of those roadblocks, you're going to have a pretty darn hard time getting into the game. Or even if you maybe get in, you're going to have a tough time scaling. And so I think we have to remove those limiting beliefs, learn how to overcome that, and then that's going to open up the door so that we can start building that portfolio that's ultimately going to change our lives.
I agree with you. It's funny because these are the two that I would have said. I always tell people there's way more money than there are deals. By a long shot. It's not even close.
Yep.
And no one can argue this. And Jaren, as you know, when when somebody brings you anything, it doesn't really even matter. It might be a car. And you're like, that's a good deal. Right? People can wrap their head around stuff, right? All the time. Like, oh, that's a good deal. They know if they're buying a house below market. They know if they're buying a car way below what it's worth. They know if they go to a garage sale and they get something and it's worth a lot more later. There's shows around all this, right? Pawn stars and then I think that one around the auction houses where people bring stuff in. So this happens around us all day long. What they don't understand is how do they view a deal in real estate? It's easy on a house, but what about on an investment property? And I think that when you start to realize it's just a small amount of education, you can actually see a deal from beginning to end. I don't know about you, but before I buy anything, I know the outcome.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No question.
Right. It is interesting. Like people, I think they believe that you buy something and then just there's like a hope strategy or something. It's not that way at all.
No. And if people do that, they're going to get burned. You do not.
Correct.
Know that.
Right. So let's talk about that. Because and I know, especially at the level you're running now, we're looking at deals all day long. We're looking at stuff pass. I would say pass on most.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then there's the one, which most of the time is a pass later, but regardless.
It still gets you on
the rabbit hole. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got one. Right. And it's like fishing, right? And so can you talk about that? Because when you start to see that deal, that's what all the people with money want, right?
100%. You hit the nail on the head. First off, there's more money than deals. I think that has to be said again. If you become good at finding deals, the money will come. And I know that sounds almost flippant if you're not in the game yet, but just trust Ken and trust myself. If you learn how to find deals, money is almost infinite. There is so much money in the investor space of people who want to give that money, deploy it to folks like me, Ken, you, once you get into the game, if you're not in real estate, to say, hey, go make me 10, 12, 14% on my capital. I don't have to deal with the real estate. You deal with that part. Just give me my returns at the end of the 3, 4, 6 months, 5 years, whatever type of deal you're doing. And so I think that's huge to drive home. When we're looking at deals, that is my bread and butter. You hit the nail on the head. I look at deals constantly. And I think one thing that people need to understand is you're right. You have to look at a lot of deals. I coach a lot of people. I know you guys do. And people get so frustrated. I'll start working with them for 2 weeks and they're like, hey man, I don't have a deal yet. I'm like, yeah, of course you don't. You've been working on this for 2 weeks. It's like, it's a volume game. We've got to have leads coming in. And then once we have the volume of leads, eventually one's going to hit. And we go capitalize on that. And then we get back in the trenches and we start analyzing again. And so for us, and I'll, disclaimer, you can make money in any type of real estate. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is just what I've done. And there are guys who do a lot bigger deals, a lot cooler asset classes than me. But I am the most basic. My investing strategy for real estate probably sounds like my accent, real simple. So we go and we find distressed properties, single family or residential, in B2C class neighborhoods. We buy them with other people's money. We fix them up with other people's money. And then we either do two things. We keep them and rent them and we refinance with the bank and pay that original lender back, or we flip them for a profit and go on to the next one. And so for us, it's a super simple strategy. I find the ARV, I multiply it by 70%. I subtract my estimated rehab, and that tells me what I need to buy the property at. And then I just start my analysis from there. Okay. Can the rents keep up with what the refi may be? Can I even get it at this price? Is my rehab dialed in? And we go through that entire process. And like you said, before I even get close to making an offer, I know worst case, middle case, best case scenario for all my deals, my multiple exit strategies. And then you can move forward and make offers with confidence and then start going on the goose chase for finding capital, which gets really, really easy as time goes on.
Right. So thank you for walking people through that. So let's just break that down a little bit. You don't have the money when you're looking. I think people need to understand that. Mm-hmm. You have your own money. I get that. But OPM means other people's money. That's what that means. So that could be in the form of debt or equity. It doesn't matter. Yep. There's people with both. It's just a label and there's different prices for each. That's all. But can you tell everybody what ARV is and how that works? Because I think once you find that deal and and a low ARV, and then you throw that 70% on, that's your model. It's a very simple model, guys, right?
100%. So ARV just stands for after repair value. So when I'm looking at a distressed property, I just want to find out, what is this thing going to be worth after I make it pretty? I'm going to buy something ugly. I'm going to make it pretty. After it's pretty, what's it worth? And so the way we do that in the residential space is ridiculously easy. Ken, I think you play in the big commercial multifamily. You could spend a long time talking about how to find values on that. And there's a little more to it. From the residential space, dude, you can hop on Zillow, look at recently sold homes in the area of the same home you're looking at that have been renovated, and figure out what is the price per square foot of the home selling for in our area after they're fixed up. Okay, I run my analysis. I found 3 comps around this particular home I'm interested in. They've been rehabbed, and after they were rehabbed, they sold for $160 a square foot. So now I have a pretty good idea that if I rehab this home that I'm looking at buying, it's now going to be worth $160 per square foot. So now I got to chase that down and figure out what I actually need to buy it at to make a profit. Or if I'm going to rent it, what do I need to buy it at a discount to get it at the right price that it needs to be at to then go and eventually rent it. And that's when we move to what they call the 70% rule. Maybe you can tell me where it came from, Ken. I don't know the origin of the 70% rule, but if you talk to real estate investors, it's a pretty prominent rule. You take your ARV, you multiply it by 70%, and then you subtract estimated rehab, and that gives you what ballpark of what you should purchase. It's not gospel. You're going to deviate from that number. It's just a good starting point.
It is a good start. And I think, again, going back to, this is a rule that you use to cycle through deals, period. And when something jumps out and it hits all those metrics that you just mentioned, then that's the time where you dig a little bit deeper. And I think what people need to understand is this is after repair value. So it's no different than you finding a car, putting a paint job on it, fixing it up, and getting all the maintenance done and selling it for more. It's the exact same thing. It's just real estate. Yeah. And so I think the after repair value is important. The one other factor here I think we need to mention is that should also include the cost of the money. Mm-hmm. So just like a contractor that paints your inside, you find the same kind of a person that gives you the money.
100%. Because you're going to have holding cost.
That's an expense.
100%.
That's an expense to the deal. Now, to Jaron's point, you can roll that in and get it back when you exit on a sale. Of course, you're going to have tax at that point, but you don't always have to do that. You can do a cash out refi, which is harder now because interest rates are up. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, the math is the math is the math. And you don't need the money. You need the deal. So if you find an ARV with that 70%, like Jaren said, and that's the after repair value and all those metrics, you could float that to, I don't know, at this point, Jaren, what do you have, 20, 30 different folks that could fund something like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started, to be fair to the newbies, it went from, and maybe, Ken, you could think back, you've been doing this longer than I have, but like when I first started, it was, who can I get to fund this deal? Like, how am I going to find a lender? To now it's, which one am I going to partner with?
Correct.
Today?
Right. I mean, by the way, that's not very long ago. Right?
Yeah.
Once you do one, which is by far the scariest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Once you do one, you start to realize, okay, how could I have done that a little bit different? How could I, can I get my contractor for less? Can I get the money for less? Is it the right market? What was my exit? And you start to learn all these things. The second one becomes significantly easier. And then, of course, you're just at, how do you scale from there, right?
100%. And it comes to other people's money, because what's going to hold you back is either deals or money, right? And we can get deal flow set up. And so then it's like, okay, once we have all these deals coming in, we have to fund them. So how do we fund them? Well, we do that with private money, right? People in your network, other investors. And when I say network, I think people stop too early, Ken. I think they go ask mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, family, coworker, and then they all say, oh, no, I don't know enough about it. And then they stop. We can't stop there. We got to keep chasing down their network. Well, mom and dad, who do you know who's done pretty well in life? Who do you know who owns real estate? You got an uncle, somebody at the church, somebody that you go to the YMCA with. Push for it. Take them to lunch. Get to know them. meet up with other investors, go to local real estate meetings, get with property managers, get a list of their investors, call investors. It's a great industry. Investors love hanging out with other investors. Start making those connections. And it's kind of like dating. Like, you want to court them a little bit. You don't want to be like, hey, Ken, thanks for having me on the show today, man. Hey, do you want to lend on my next deal? Let's get to know each other a little bit first.
Yeah.
And then you can do the standard, hey, I got this great deal. I got deals that are coming in. You don't happen to know anybody who would be interested in being a private lender on some of these deals, do you? And start there. You don't even have to flat out ask. You can do the soft close and see what happens, and do this at a volume with as many people as you can meet. And next thing you know, you have a lender. And then also, I'll say this, Ken, too, is let people know what you're doing. When you do deals, post it. Now, when I first started, I didn't have the Finance Cowboy brand. It was just Jaren Sustar's personal Facebook. But I started posting the rentals that we were buying, the flips that we were doing, and everybody wants to be in real estate. That's what you learn. Even the people who talk junk about it, they wish they could do it. And there's people who have money who will use you as the easy way to get in, and they'll be very, very excited about it.
I agree. I know I just did a video on, how to scale your business. And I think once you get a couple deals behind you, right, then actually becomes a little bit easier, believe it or not. But then it can also be a little confusing because the deal flow and the systems you've got, right, are already moving along. So we only got another minute there, but any final last words on how to scale your business?
The biggest thing, guys, is learn how to analyze quick. Keep that lead flow coming in. Have agents send you leads, wholesalers send you leads. You can do mailers. You can do cold calling. I mean, we could spend hours just talking on this, but let's get leads coming in, because if we don't have leads, we don't have anything to analyze. So let's get the leads coming in. Let's learn how to analyze what is our asset class. How do we know if it's a good deal or not, or at least the deal that we should chase down within 5 minutes or less? And then how do we start building those relationships that are going to allow us to fund everything that comes to us so that we can scale and ultimately change our life in the long run.
Yeah. And Rich Dad, of course, has a tremendous amount of products to help assist all those things. And I know you have some too. Jaren, what is the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is Instagram at Finance Cowboy, financecowboy.com, or YouTube at Finance Cowboy. I mean, we're on all the social media. So all the social media, hit us up. We're putting out content all the time. Would love to meet you. Shoot me a DM, and I'd love to respond to you, tell you hello.
Jaron, as always, man, great to hear your knowledge, and congrats on your success. Can't wait to watch you soar. Thank you for helping people, and I can't wait to see you in May.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on, Ken.
All right. So welcome back to the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. I'm Ken McElroy, filling in for Robert Kiyosaki while he is speaking through Australia and New Zealand. And I just want to thank Jaron Sustar for his conversation. I think it's an inspiring story, and I think everyone's story. Everyone's trying to figure out, how can I be better? How can I provide for my family? How can I have passive income so that I don't have to work so hard? Especially in this economy right now with this rising inflation, everybody's falling behind so much. So it's a very inspiring story. And I just want to leave with you guys one thing. This is the cash flow quadrant. Jaron Sustar is the epitome of the cash flow quadrant. Started as an E, as a truck driver, pastor's kid, moved to S, which is self, and started doing deals. And now he's moving to the B side and to the I side. So this is the path. This is why the cash flow quadrant is so important. You can do it too, all of you. You just got to start, and you do not need money. You just need financial education. So this is Ken McElroy in for Robert Kiyosaki. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.